as Wilco makes a run ahead of him. Bergkamp suddenly changed pace through the centre. It's Bergkamp! That's magnificent! The move, and then this, which left Dabby's ass totally stranded.
Hello and welcome to Bergkamp Wonderland, episode 1,542. It is with me, and it is the other half of the Guns N' Roses, the Guns N' Yellow Ribbon. Guns N' Roses? Do you do a Guns N' Roses podcast?
We do a tribute to their podcast.
Excellent.
Yeah,
well, he's got a Guns N'
and we
Roses
call it Guns
podcast,
N' Ribbons.
And he's also got a Guns N' Yellow Ribbons podcast. We had Trev on just at 6 o'clock, and now we've got the man who presses all the buttons, Fergus. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. Did Trev stick to his allotted time?
He did actually say, would you like me to just give you the answers? I said, no, there's no hurry. So I think he did 21 minutes, which isn't the shortest. And the longest was 32 minutes. That was our Carl, because I don't tell Carl what to do, because he runs the London Underground, and he will make sure that if I ever get a job, I won't get to work. And so, there you go. That was it. So how's things with you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Just a long, hard day. Stuck on the M25 and awful weather down in London today.
Absolutely, and it's not. There's no sign. It is the Atlantic conveyor belt, because the North Pole is getting warmer, and so it's no longer drawing the warm air up past our fair isles, and so apparently that is it. And we're fucked. The entire world's burning, and we're going to freeze. Typical, isn't it?
For a week, and then it will switch for another week,
Hopefully.
and then for another week. I don't know. I don't know. I don't get into that sort of thing.
No, I only heard it today. I don't believe any of it. I only believe it if I see it. Stick to football. There, we can be wrong, and no one cares. How do you feel so far about the transfer window?
I'm quite positive about it. The 200 million, and still looking to push on with possibly this Raya coming in. I know they're looking at cover for and to challenge Saka as well as an option. They may have to look for centre forward cover, because I'm hearing Jesus might be out for 8 to 10 weeks.
What's he done now?
He's having knees. He's not playing tonight for a knee issue. And I've heard rumours. I've tried on text, and I've got not sure, but I'm hope not is all I've got at the moment from my my contact.
You got your sources.
Yeah. So I just said I'm hearing rumours 8 to 10 weeks. Is it true? He said not sure. So I don't know. We might have to look at the centre forward option. Clearly, Balogun isn't in the plans, because he's not even on the bench, I don't think, tonight. So overall, really positive. I was looking at the start of the summer of possibly looking at 5-6 ideal transfers with a striker, keeper, right wing, centre mid, and all the areas that we have been buying in. And I thought keeper would have been one of the last ones on the list. Yeah. If we can get keeper and right wing, I'd be happy with the 5 if we push it to the 6. And get a centre forward as well as a plan B, a Giroud-esque or somebody like that. That would be just like Shangri-La off a transfer window, wouldn't it?
Do you think Havertz can do the role as a striker if we need it? I know he failed at Chelsea, but that was playing as a back-to-goal striker, which he can't do, can he?
I don't think he can. I think you need to play him and give him that bit more freedom. We talked about it last night on the podcast. Sophie from Highbury Squad was a guest and mentioned like an Ozil-esque type player at times. You've got to give him a little bit more freedom. He's allowed playing that hole for Germany, and he's far more productive there. He was in more in that role. Not that I watched him lots for Bayer Leverkusen. So, but listen, Arteta so far hasn't put a foot wrong over the last season, really. So, I'm sure he's got a role for him.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think if anybody still doubts Arteta and the process, then they need to question themselves. I didn't want Arteta as manager in the beginning, and I thought he would be fired after about the first 6 or 7 games of his second season, because things just weren't working right. But when you look back at it in context, you go, he was just clearing out all the mistakes from all the previous managers, and he's made very few mistakes since now that he's been, him and Edu and Vinay and Garlic and all that lot are doing the stuff. There's hardly any mistakes. There's a couple of gambles they've made, which might not have paid off, but We get our money back on them.
I think where it changed, when he got changed from being head coach to being manager, I think then the more decisive moves have been made, and the more, right, we're definitely getting rid of him and we're definitely bringing this player in. And I think between him being put into that role, Garlic, and some other people being put into roles, I'm not taking away from Edu, but I think there's other people around in the team that help Arteta hugely to get all these deals and these players across the line. So, I'm beyond the process. I'm the progress now.
That's it. And it's still, you still see people wanting Arteta out, and you think, well, either you haven't updated your bio in a while, or you're just a moron, because there is not a single thing about this side that you can't see improving in this coming season or working out better. We've been a bit unlucky with injuries. If we'd have had the same team at the end of last season we had at the beginning of the season, we would have been champions. And that wasn't Arteta's fault that players got injured, was it?
No, I don't think it was, but I also think we did have a bit of luck that other teams weren't on fire. And I'm not taking away from what we did achieve, and I thought we overachieved what we did. The lack of depth in our squad, hopefully, which we're addressing now, did cost us. But the fact that Chelsea had such a poor season, Liverpool had a poor season, United didn't come back until late onto the season. I think that did help us. City even to settle in Haaland at the start. People were going, oh, maybe he's not the right type of player to mix in with City, and he ends up scoring the most goals in the league, and the rest is history. I think he's just going to tear up the league this year as well. So, which is some of my predictions.
The end of last season. He didn't have a great end to, I mean, trophy-wise, it was magnificent, but goals-wise, didn't have a good end to the season, did he? I think he had 1 in 7. So hopefully, I mean, we're grabbing at straws here, but hopefully, if he can bring that form into next season, because like Fergus was, like Trevor was saying, he said that all we need to do is concentrate on our away games in the Northwest: Everton, Liverpool, Man City, Man United.
To be honest, okay, the Liverpool game and the Everton game was just awful. It was my birthday. I was up there and I was feeling unwell, but we just didn't turn up. It was the first day under Sean Dyche, etc. But the Liverpool game, we turned up. Everyone, I still have bruises, I think, from that game when we're jumping around in the away end. But 2-0 up, and to walk away with a point from Anfield is a great result. For me, I think we need to make sure that we don't lose to City at home at our place. We need to get at least 3, if not 4 points. That's harder done. But if we can get 3 points off City, I think then we genuinely can consider ourselves in the title race. Because if we had got 3 points off City this season, well, that's a 6-point swing. We've won the league. Okay, other results might have gone the other way, but that would have made it a huge bit of pressure on them. And I know we went up there, and with the West Ham game, we went to City on what was it, the Wednesday night for that game, and we played fantastic, and the journey of last season was just outstanding. I loved it. Dan, I was absolutely physically exhausted after the 9 months of football. I felt like I kicked nearly every ball. I'd done 42 out of 49 games, home, away, in Europe and everything else, which I've never done that many before, thanks to some good friends to help me out and stuff along the way. But wow, 1, it was expensive. 2, it was amazing. And, it will be with me till the day I die.
And this season, if we make it to all the finals of all the competitions we're in, we could play 64 games. How about that? And people
question why we need Raya, or another really good number 1 keeper.
Because Turner is he's not a Premier League goalkeeper. He's not rubbish, but he doesn't play enough, and he doesn't look like he's comfortable with the Arteta system.
No, I don't think so. And in St. Gallen, I was a couple of pints in, maybe a few more, and I saw him play in that game, and he was dreadful in the Europa League games, and I'd hate to see him up against Champions League's opposition, and if that's where he'd be played, if Ramsdale's going to be the main keeper, that would worry me hugely. So I'm all for bringing in an upgrade on Turner, and that is nothing against our Ramsdale on that one.
Yeah, we all love Ramsdale. Right, let's bring up the predictions grid and zoom that in a little bit. So, I've not put your one in here yet. So there you go. Copy all that lot and whack it in there. Right, so it's Fergus. Your podcast is at Guns and Ribbons. I've had a word with Elon. I said, Elon, we want longer usernames for Twitter, and he's ignored me so far. So I'm not very happy about that. He's a very bad man. He's too busy rebranding to do anything. What have you got for Premier League winners? Because every single person has gone Man City or Arsenal.
To be honest, I think Liverpool are going to be in that mix as well, hugely in that mix. I've gone City, only because I don't know if we can get that 3 or 4 points that we need to take. If we get that 3 points from City at our place, I think then we are definitely contenders. That's and we mentioned already Haaland. You've got Haaland, who was just scoring for fun. I do think City are going through transition. I think they've got rid of a lot of players. We're not seeing them buying a huge number of players as well. So that could play into our hands. But Liverpool have bought well as well. So Liverpool will be in that mix. And I've got my 3. They're in my top 3.
So where are you putting Arsenal in the Premier League next season?
I got excited last season. I got really excited and probably shot me load too early, as I say. I'm going a conservative 3rd. I'm going 3rd.
There'll be no look on your face at the end of the season, because if you finish above that, you'll be looking happy. But all us idiots that are predicting 1st, I think we're all going to be. There's a good chance we're going to be disappointed, because the bookies are very rarely wrong, are they?
Well, listen, I'm trying to. I'll talk about bookies in a second. I'm trying to think with my head and not my heart when you ask me these questions. So ideally, I want us to win, and I think we are definitely in with a shout to win. And I think we are going to be in the mix. But I do also think that Man United are going to improve. Not enough. I think Chelsea are going to improve. Not enough. But they only have the Premier League. Okay, the other cup competitions as well, but they've only got the cup competition, the Premier League to worry about. No Europe. And Liverpool have bought well, and Klopp, he's gone into season 8. He's never done that before. Maybe he'll reset and start all over again.
True. Yes, it's a double season of rebuilding for Liverpool. It didn't quite work out last season. It took quite a while to gel. So hopefully, losing their entire midfield this season, they're going to take ages to sort that out.
But with Liverpool losing their entire midfield, it wouldn't be a bad thing, because their midfield was probably, the combined age was probably half our ages. So
yes, I'll get into the end of their time. Who are you going to go for Arsenal's top goal scorer at all competitions?
Well, this is before I heard the rumour I had. I got Gabriel Jesus. He got 11 goals in the league before the World Cup last season, and I think he'll just come more. He'll be in more. He won't be rested for the Europa League games. He would be playing in the Champions League games more, and I think he would get more goals. The problem that you've got with the Arsenal, not the problem, the issue you've got with Arsenal and not having an out-and-out number 9 or a striker. There's goals coming from everywhere. Odegaard will put in 15 goals. Saka will put in some goals. Martinelli will put some goals. Jesus, I'm sure Havertz, and even Rice might put a few goals on the board. But I think overall, Jesus on there. Although I'd love to see Ivan Toney in with us in January.
That would solve a lot of problems. But Arteta doesn't like players that might go rogue, and I don't think Ivan Toney's the kind of person you're going to tell what to do, and he's going to go, "Yes, sir." He's his own man.
It's hugely about characters and culture within the club at the moment.
Yeah. Where's Spurs going to finish this season? We've had some lovely answers so far this season. The highest anyone out of 13 people has given is 7th, and the lowest is 13th.
Well, I thought maybe 7th. But I think there's a dark horse in this mix in this season, and that's Aston Villa with Unai Emery. And that's why the highest I can put them up is in 8th. And that's subject to them keeping Kane. Lose Kane, and I think, they could be having a West Ham season and been fighting with relegation. To be honest, I ran through some of these questions with some mates of mine yesterday. And one of them was a Tottenham fan. And I was talking to an Arsenal fan, and I said, where are Tottenham going to finish? I said 8th. And he laughed. He went, "You're optimistic, aren't you?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "If we do 10th, 11th, we'll be lucky. And if we lose Kane, we're screwed."
Well, my mate Lee, who's had a Spurs season tickets for years, has given them up this season. He said, I'm not giving any more money to that effing club. And he said, hey, if Harry has any sense, he'll leave. I thought, I don't think at any point us Arsenal fans have been that down on the club. Some have been to a certain degree, but I've never wanted our best player to leave.
I've heard people say stupid things like that on Twitter before. I don't think I've met it. I don't think I've met a genuine supporter of a football club to say something as ridiculous about the club that they support. But he supports Tottenham, so what more would you expect?
That's very true. Who have you got for the FA Cup?
The mighty Arsenal. It's our cup, number 15.
Number 15.
I'd love to see us 4 trips to Wembley.
Yes, that'd be well. Charity Shield,
3.
FA Cup, League Cup, and the Champions League. That'd be just like the old days, wouldn't it? The Millennium Stadium. We were there every half hour. I mean, I've been to Millennium Stadium 3 times in my time, and I didn't even do the Charity Shields. I did the FA Cup finals, but it become like our away ground at times. League Cup, what are you going to go for there?
Like a lot of others, I said a dark horse. I think Villa. I think Villa will. To be honest, I don't see us focusing on the League Cup as much as we'd focus on the FA Cup. But you could easily interchange either two of those. And, I think Arsenal will get a trophy. And the League Cup or FA Cup being the minimum. And I think also Villa will challenge seriously for a trophy. I would have put the likes of Brighton in there as well. But I think Brighton, with having Europa League football, the Cups might have to take a slight back seat just because of squad depth.
Yeah. Good. So far, I mean, I've done. I did Aston Villa for that as well, and there's now 5 people have picked Aston Villa, apart from Seb, the Aston Villa fan, and he picked Man City. So I think he's gone safe there,
which is probably sensible as well because they've won it for the last 4 years running, I think, haven't they?
Didn't Man United win it last year?
Yes, actually they did. Yeah, they did. Yeah. They did.
They I can't remember who they beat in the final, but yeah, the one time Man City needed it, so they do the quintuplet, and they messed it up. Champions League, what's your thoughts on this?
I've been giving the Champions League a bit of a boycott since, I don't know, for the last 4 or 5 years. I just didn't feel it was me,
No particular reason?
No particular reason, I just didn't really like it. And, I thought, Wednesday nights, we were doing the podcast on a Wednesday night, Tuesday night, like the wife goes out on a Monday, so Tuesday night would be the wife's night. So, why waste a Tuesday or Wednesday on something like the Champions League? So, but because you asked me so kindly for an answer, I thought I'd think about it. I was going Munich, but I've gone Real Madrid. And the reason I was going Munich is I thought Kane was definitely going to go there, and there's some debate about that. But I've gone Real Madrid because they have got Bellingham, and they could have Mbappe by then. And I had another reason on here as well. They got Bellingham, possibly Mbappe. And I just think if I just think that they're the draw always favours Barcelona. The draw always favours Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. It just seems to be seeded that way. So you can just pick one of them. I'd love it to be us, but I think it'll probably be one of them because football's not fixed.
No, definitely not. There's no warm balls and cold balls in there. But for it, the fact that it's going to be at Wembley, that is a huge advantage for Man City and Arsenal, isn't it? I mean, because most Man City fans do live in the south, and I mean, everyone. I've got 2 nephews, Max and George, used to be Arsenal fans just because their mum and their aunties and all that side of the family are all Spurs. I converted Sean's mum from Spurs to Arsenal, and Sean's Arsenal, and they love Sean. And so they're Arsenal, they had the kits, and now they both support Man City.
Yeah, well, I'll keep my counsel on that one.
Yeah, terrible. And top goal scorer from the Premier League in all competitions.
Copy and paste above Haaland. Listen, if he's not top goal scorer in one, he'll be top scorer in the other. They're going to be in the competitions till the very late stages, and he's going to be playing in a lot of the games. Even if they're not getting through to the next round, they're struggling. Guess what? We'll bring Haaland on, and he'll get the winner.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to break that team down. Do you think? They won the quadruple last season. They're probably going to do a similar number of cups this season. Do you think at any point their owners are going to go, right, that's it, that's done. We're going to go and buy ourselves a Formula One team now and give up on football?
They probably own a Formula One team under some other guys and sponsored in a funny way. Oops, did I say that?
There's a company, there's a kebab shop in Saudi Arabia that has bought a Formula One team. and all they sell is kebabs, and they just got this funny sponsorship deal, and they're owned by someone who owns somebody who knows somebody. Yeah, plenty of that. There'll be another charge to stick on the case. Absolute scumbags.
And you know what's going to happen with that? Absolutely nothing. They'll get a big fine. They'll get a big fine, which they can pay easily, and they'll get a suspended sentence that will pass, and they'll go, well, time spent, and it will all be undone. And to be honest, even if they did come along and retract the Premier League last season, we're not going to have the joy of watching us lift from the trophy. No. If they did retract the FA Cup and the Champions League, that's not going to help those fans and those teams. Okay, yeah, might change something on a piece of paper, but for me, it's the achievement along the way, and to be tarnished by such corruption is just awful.
That's why there's no point going back to, I think it was Nottingham Forest played a European Cup final against Malmo or something like that in the 70s, and 4 or 5 years ago, the referee admitted that he had been bribed to let the other team win, gave them a penalty, and they won, and so they lost a European Cup final. I think it was Malmo and Forest, but it's something like that. And this happened 40 years later. He admitted that he was bribed, and there's no point taking the trophy off them or giving it to the other team, is there? And so, yeah, you're right.
No, not really.
Same as last season. But this season, as soon as this season kicks off, they'll automatically have another 60 or 70 charges, same charges as last year, but with 20, 23, 24 written on them instead. And they just have the same.
I think the charges go back. I think it's about 3 years ago was the last lot. So I think they sorted themselves out after that.
Have they?
But it was all in the build up. Yeah. They got the ducks in a row. Yeah, ducks in a row. So,
what are you going to go for the winner of the championship? Very interesting division this season.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I did look at. I can see above me that Trevor's gone for Leeds, and I did consider Leeds, but I didn't know, because I don't look at Championship football hugely to know all the teams that are involved. My boss is a Birmingham City fan, and I was tempted to go Birmingham City. Just if you ever watched it, he'd be pleased and so on. But they're a good shout for a playoff position, is what he told me, and I suggested to him maybe Leeds United, and he went, "No, they've sold." No. What, for a playoff position?
Birmingham, they're more like relegation than playoff. They're terrible.
I don't know.
Their owners have done them over. Their best player has come back to Arsenal. We've sold him to Sheffield United. They are one of the clubs that they won't finish out the bottom half.
He's probably speaking with his heart rather than his head, and he's the boss. So I listen to him and went, "Yes, boss, you're right." But I thought Leeds, but he informed me, and then I looked up. They're losing loads of players. They're losing Adams. They're losing all the American players and the big ticket players that they had. So I looked around, and I didn't see it. But when I started looking at who Leicester bought, they bought Connor Cody. They've got Winks from Tottenham. They've got some Danish players and some good players that they've brought in. Yeah. And they've bought well, and those players are good quality players for the bottom end of the Premier League. Like Winks, he's not a top Champions League type player, but you could easily play at Bournemouth or somewhere like that. So in the Championship, I think you do quite well there. Also, Leicester, I think, will lose Jamie Vardy. He's 36. I know he'll score goals in the Championship even at that age, but I think the lure of paying back for Rebecca's court case and the lure of Saudi Arabia.
That's $5 million.
Come and knock. Well, I'll say no more. But I think the lure of Saudi Arabia may come a knocking, and I don't think he'll turn it down. So I'm. Go on.
Go on.
Now, despite that, I'm going Leicester.
Same as me. I think he will do the decent thing and remember that club have made him a multi-millionaire. He'll stay with them in the Championship, score a shitload of goals. They'll go up as champions, and then he'll leave at the end of the season because he's not good. We saw last season he is no longer a Premier League striker. He hasn't got the speed, which is what he used to rely on. And in that he's a dirty bastard. And in the Championship, he can be all elbows and knees and vicious and do what he loves to do and go out by taking the team back up. And they'll have won the Premier League and the Championship with the same club and the FA Cup, which isn't a bad turn. How about
romantically, that's very nice, but I still think if 10 million smackaroos and 2 years of tax-free money comes, I think Vardy will move, don't you?
I think he'll be off. So come on, love. First Premier League manager to be sacked. What are you going for?
Well, I've looked in here and nobody's got him. I've gone for Eddie Howe.
Oh yeah.
at Newcastle. Like, Newcastle are going to be under a lot of pressure. They're going to have Champions League football, and people have the expectation that they're going to be top four rivals again. And I don't think they are going to be in the top four. I think they'll probably be fifth, sixth in the league, somewhere like that. I think sixth actually in the league is where they'll probably end up. I think Champions League football will take a toll on them. They're only really playing once a week, and there's already they've been a little bit restricted trying to stick to FFP and a certain budget that they've got. And I know they've got unlimited funds behind the scenes, but there are some sort of restrictions they're putting on themselves for now. And I think that if they start struggling a little, I think he might come under some pressure. Because you said who would resign, and I think that could be Moyes. Because I don't think they'll sack him. They can't sack him after winning that big flower vase.
Very true. Right. HOWE. Yeah, I got that. Right. That's it. We're all done. Tell people a little about your podcast. Really good episode the other day with you and Trev and Sophie and your young man from Scandinavia. And Trev told in the podcast how you lot got to meet him and his dad in the pub. And so you got a nice little, and you got that other bloke called Dan on there. Is his name Dan? I think it is.
Dan. Ginger
he's
Dan.
Very good.
Yeah. So
there's one other bloke as well that you have on. They're very good. It's always, I mean, like I said to Trev, there's only a handful of podcasts on YouTube that I subscribe to with my own personal YouTube account, and yours is one of them. And so tell people about your podcast in case they don't know, because you're getting close to 1,000 subs, and that's when you start making the big money, because you can monetize it.
Well, it can't. It's not really monetized. Well, to be honest, if it covered its cost, it'd be brilliant. It does cost to host these sort of things. Yeah. So, to be honest, I'm not in it to make money. I know. Yeah. If it did, fantastic. But I'm in it. It's a hobby. I enjoy talking to Trev and talking to Alex and talking to Dan and Dale and all the others that come on. It is very much the premise is four gooners down the pub having a chat. Often I'm sitting here with a beer. And we just talk. We talk Arsenal, and we have a few topics. We don't go shouting. We don't go, we want Wenger out, and we don't use like Yardy spin talk or anything like that. We don't go for clicks. We don't go for any of that. We just sit there and chat. And we have a lot of regulars that come in the chat, and it's really good to see them. I've been on many other podcasts, including your own as well, which is really good. And we're all of a similar ilk. We're sort of just fans who want to support the team. We'll criticise the team if Wenger or Emery or Arteta have messed up somewhere along the line. We'll call them out, but we don't have to shout and scream and spit down the lens. To do that, you can just come along and say, I think that was wrong, and this is why I think it was wrong. We don't make a lot of sense a lot of the time. We just waffle on and we have a laugh and we take the piss out of each other. But that's why it's fun and that's why I enjoy doing it. We've been doing this since November 2017 and we'll continue to do it. We started this season off last night with episode 262. We done through the summer, not this summer, because I needed a summer off for just purely exhausted after last season. But the previous summer, we done Arsenal community contributors, which was the Ashburton Army, Dale Llewellyn, Ruth Beck, all artists and authors and journalists, and we done about 7. And the summer before that, we done the Arsenal history series, which was with Andy Kelly and Mark Andrews, who've written loads and loads of books on it. Yeah. They've written loads and loads of books, and we've done a 10-hour summer special with them, just going right through from 1886 to 2021, I think it was, or 2020, right through from coming from South London to why we moved to North London, why we end up where we were, why we didn't end up in Fulham, why we didn't end up in Edmonton, which we could have ended up in. There was loads of different things. We went through the war years, and I found some footage of when Highbury was bombed. And it's just loads and loads of bits, and it's really enjoyable. So check it out if you want. If you don't bother. It's fine. We'll carry on doing it.
I listen to most of them live. I listen to them all the way through again. And even I find I'm still and we had them on many years ago, and I've got all their books, and I'm regularly DMing with a pair of them when I'm asking information about this and that. And they need a bigger platform for what they do, because the stuff that they do, they're changing the Arsenal history that the club don't even know about. And I mean, I think the club accept now that they are the authority on everything Arsenal, and they're still every time I message them every couple of weeks or every month, I say, what have you dug up? And they say, well, we've been going through all old articles, old newspapers, or we found this here, we found a family member of an ex-player who had some stuff here and there, and constantly finding new stuff. But Arsenal
Football Club had to go and get the second manager of Arsenal Football Club. I can't remember his name, so don't.
Oh, they got it wrong, didn't they? They had his brother.
They couldn't find the photograph, and they got in touch with somebody, and he ended up being the manager of Brighton after that. And through their network of historians, they said, "Oh, this is our manager of around that time. He was your manager beforehand. Did you know that?" Then they came along and they researched it and went, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, we've got a photograph. Do you want it?" I said, "Yes." And that one that's on the wall as the second manager of Arsenal Football Club in the stadium, that's a photo supplied by them. So they are good. And listen, they've got to be in the 60s. You know, we're none of us around here forever, so they need to bottle them and then get the next generation coming through and the next generation of supporters. And I'm sure there's one young Ashburton Army fan that's just likes his geeky stuff, and he could be the next Arsenal historian.
Well, there's that bloke on Twitter from Scandinavia called Hente, and he does some magnificent tweets. I always like to have a look through, and he'll put 1 of 9, and you think, oh, God, this is going to take me 10 minutes to get through all this lot. And he is hungry for information, and he's even finding stuff to help them out, which is fantastic. But yeah,
and then you get those shows. Swiss Ramble as well.
Hey,
you got the financials with Swiss Ramble. He likes the detail as well.
Kieran, lovely bloke. I've had him on once. He doesn't want to do any more podcasts again, so I asked him to come on again. Lovely bloke. I said, Sean's coming to Switzerland. Have you got any pointers for her to do? And he went, yeah, because he lives there. He said, yeah, do this, do there, go there, see this. I thought, what a lovely bloke. Anyway, people go, like I said at the end of the last podcast, for Fergus and Trevor, go to Guns and Yellow Ribbons on YouTube, subscribe. Even if you don't like the look of what you see, you will find something eventually that you like. And they're a couple of genuine gooners of the proper generation where we've seen all the shit, and now we're loving the modern Arsenal and what Arteta and Edu and all them lot are doing. And it is a magnificent time to be an Arsenal fan, not just because of what's happening on the pitch, but for what podcasts like yours and others are doing off the pitch, which is just a perfect compliment to a wonderful team. So thank you very much for joining me this afternoon, Fergus. It's been wonderful.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for the chance.
And I will no doubt podcast with you again sometime in the season. And now what we're going to do is press the outro button. Goodbye.
As soon as I scored that goal, I was fucking livid. Get down, dog. Splendid business.
He nearly caught the bloody thing. What are you talking about?
So I was just eating a full quiche. Well, you don't often see them at it. So when you see them in the supermarket, they need to be swagged, microwaved immediately, and get the brown sauce on one. Bosh, Bob's your uncle.